Hello, I'm Richard Pritzloff, president of the Biophilia Foundation. I'm here this morning with Juliet Vivanti. She is the educational coordinator for Borderlands Restoration Network. And just for some background, I thought I would just tell a quick story about how that got started.
It's a great story.
So about 2011, 2012, when Borderlands Restoration was started as sort of the original organization for the network. I was walking one day with one of the other founders and talking about, we've got a lot of great knowledge and experiences that we're building up here. How can we institutionalize that? How can we share that with other communities and individuals, especially younger folks, so that they can carry on into the future? And that's really the idea of, then we thought of it as an institute, as opposed to more simply, in many ways, a field school. And that's how it all evolved.
So this year, the field school is July 15th through August 8th, and we are covering a really broad range of topics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very holistic course in a sense. We look at everything from really establishing a sense of place in the Madrean archipelago, because a lot of folks will be coming from outside this region,
Mm-hmm.
and watershed restoration, and then we'll take a look at all of our native plants, native plant propagation,
Mm-hmm.
native seeds, and then another aspect which draws a lot of social science as well as the environmental sciences, because the course is well rounded, is looking at the situation on the border.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the humanitarian aid and the politics of what's happening on the border right now. And then the final week, this year we're going to head to Mexico, and the last week is more really a chance to integrate and practice what we've learned and look at what is actually happening in Sonora, taking a look at holistic grazing, sustainable grazing, and then also that last week, which is one thing I'm very excited about, is we stop and talk to Border Arts Corridor about how they're working on both sides of the border,
Mm-hmm.
and using art to really educate and create some social change,
That's great.
just as an example.
Yeah, yeah. And where do the students come from? And has that changed over the summers?
You know, it has evolved. As we head into our third year, it's a little bit different. The second year, we had people coming from all over the world and around the U.S. So last year, our cohort was very international. We had people coming from Israel and from the Netherlands
Mhm, I
and
remember
Canada,
that. Mhm.
and they were not as interested in the doing the work in the borderlands, but taking those practices of how to restore arid lands,
Mhm.
and then taking them back home to and the regions that they intended to work
Mhm.
in, and implementing the practices. This year, it's more focused on we've refined the school a little bit, and our focus is really on people that want to live and work in the borderlands.
Mhm.
And we also did more outreach to students from communities of color and underfunded students from
Mhm.
both Sonora and Arizona. So this year the group is a little bit tighter, and then
Mhm.
we do have some professionals coming in from elsewhere.
Mhm. Yeah, one of the to me the great values of the field school and Borderlands Restoration Network in general is the cross-border, bi-national approach, and trying to create a restoration economy and livelihoods based on the essential natural resources and their protection.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that has to happen to relieve some of the tensions and border problems. And my impression is that the school runs smoothly. There really aren't any issues directly with the so-called border conflict.
Right.
That really doesn't seem to be an issue.
Absolutely. And I think that even people in this region, until they really get down to the border and see firsthand and talk to people and have their own experiences about what it's like to live so close and work so close to the border, it really shifts a lot of perspectives. So we've actually added a few more pieces this year specifically around that binational work, and one of the areas is we'll be visiting the ranches and and looking at the watershed restoration on both sides of the border with Quincaloso Ojos, and we're looking forward to that. We have that aspect, and one program that we didn't offer last year is we're going to take a look at the Kino Border Initiative. So we're going to go spend the day down on the border and actually walk the border and hear about how the work that they are doing with immigrants and the food that they're providing. So that'll be real first on hands-on experience, and they'll be able to see it and experience it themselves. We also have a return guest speaker, Paco Cantu, and one of our authors, and we're going to be taking a look at the juxtaposition of beauty and violence in the Borderlands, and going to the wall and then doing a creative writing exercise. So, you know, the different components of the course also include arts and ecology. So there's really time to understand how to bridge that gap and make an impact in so many different ways. You know, the hands-on work versus writing versus making murals on the border.
Sure, because people have different ways of expressing and needing to process what they're seeing, what they're experiencing. So
Yeah.
that's really great. That is. How do the participants themselves sort of interact, and how do you see them change just even over the short course of 4 weeks?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Last year was my first year, and they inspired me. So we had this group of people coming from all over the place, from such different backgrounds and levels of education, undergraduates. We had a participant that was just coming out of our program, Bessie, that's focused more towards high schoolers, the Borderlands Earth Care Youth. And so graduate students and professionals, and they were able to really meld during that time, and not only learning from the guest speakers and our in-house staff, but also learning from each other. And they became this really tight group, and I know a lot of them still stay in touch.
Stay in touch.
And in fact, one of the things that I learned last year is the value of all of the social networks and the contacts that they made, and what has resulted from, you know, their completion of the field school. Some of them have, you know, continued to work with Borderlands through internships, and they made a lot of professional contacts and friendships.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thinking way back when I was in school, if I'd had that opportunity, you know, I would love that. So that's really great. And I've got an intern from last year's program working for me. He's a graduate student at the University of Arizona, and he's been doing some great work researching carbon offset markets and soil carbon and that sort of thing, to see if there's a way we can incorporate that into the Borderlands Restoration Network offerings, if you will, for you know, revenue for landowners, and seeing if we can, you know, create jobs out of that as well. So I guess you know, what are, I know that there's plans for a field school, I think next year in Sonora. Can you talk about that a little bit? What's behind that?
Well, it's coming together in this amazing way. We have two of our graduates from last year that are attending school at Unison in Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico, and Leia and Valeria. So they've been coming up and working on this field school graduate internship to help develop the curriculum, because they are so connected to what's happening in Sonora, and they have a lot of contacts, and they know a lot of the people that would be appropriate to invite to speak. So we have been working on that, and it's been a lot of fun, and they have done an amazing job. So at this point we have the curriculum mapped out. It could change, but our intention is to have a 2-week course with a lot of field work and covering the same themes of, you know, the restoration economy, watershed restoration, native plants, and then the social and humanitarian and political issues on the border. So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
From that perspective, from the South.
Yes. So again,
Looking
working on
north.
that binational approach where the plan at this point is to have the school alternate. So next year it would be in Sonora, then Patagonia, and each year we'd go back and forth.
And I should point out, we're in Patagonia, Arizona, and so we're only about 18 miles from the border, and it's beautiful down here. So let's talk about like the cost for the program. How much is it for the field school?
The tuition is $1,600, and then one thing that we did, and that's for the entire 4-week course, is the second year, first year I was involved, is we really learned how tricky housing is in Patagonia. So on our campus, we built out really basic field school housing so that people could come more affordably. So that was a big improvement. And we only charge $200 for housing.
Wow.
A lot of what we charge doesn't actually cover our costs.
I was about to say.
So we do a lot of fundraising. We're very grateful to Biophilia for helping support the field school, and we're working on grants. But it's a very expensive program to actually run, mostly because there's a lot of components, but there's transportation. We go into Mexico. We fund the internships, and then just bringing in. We have about 35 speakers this year,
Wow.
so all these experts in their field. Some of them, very well known, that carve out the time to really share their knowledge with these students, and that includes both our guest speakers and our in-house team of experts. So yeah, it's quite the production.
Yeah, that's a lot of moving parts.
It's a lot of moving
But
parts.
what a rich, fantastic experience for
Yeah.
students.
And there's nothing that I am aware of that's nothing like this.
I can't think of, between the theory, but particularly the hands-on work within this context.
Yeah.
I can't. So yeah, it's very special. It's really a great program. Well, again, I want to thank you for taking time to speak with us today. Fantastic work.
Yeah.
Biophilia Foundation is very proud to have been a foundational foundation.
That's important.